Okay, we're officially live. All right, we are officially live, so if everybody would get the party started on your phones, on your device, and while everyone is filing into the room.
Are we live?
We're live.
We're live.
Yeah.
Episode 26 of Bee Programming.
Bee Programming, the best podcast in the world, really. I mean, that's what it's all about. So yeah, while you guys are filing into the room here, we're gonna do that watch party thing or whatever they gotta call it now. And yeah, David can introduce our amazing guest that I'm super stoked to have on the show today. And yeah, let's get to it, huh?
Yeah. So big thank you to Ray Yoon for joining us on the podcast. And for those that may have not heard of Ray Yoon before, he is he's a dear friend, and I would say from the bottom of his heart, he's spreading natural farming internationally around the world, and he's not letting any barriers to this information or love stop him from sharing. And just a little bit about Ray Yoon, we'll go into it. Currently, he's the director of the Soil and Soul Organic Movement, and he's the secretary for Sarm, Society of Organic Movement. And I just learned that Sarm actually means life in Korean. It's not an acronym. And he's a certified Tai Chi instructor. And if you've ever heard of Jadam, Master Young-san Cho's method, Ray Yoon used to work for Jadam, and he actually translated like that his book, which is an Amazon, #1 bestseller. So he has tremendous experience with natural farming. He's propagated teachings all over the world, like I said, but specifically in the Philippines. And some of his previous work experience before farming is kind of interesting. He's a diplomat for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Korea. He was also a Minister of National Defense and ROK Air Force. So
not the minister.
Not the
like a secretary. Ministry.
Ministry. Not the minister. But he has worked with some influential powers at Bee and has done some righteous work. And he's won awards and accolades. He's a visiting professor at the National College of Science and Technology, NCST, in the Philippines. He's won the Foreign Ministers Award in 2010, and then the Defense Ministers Award in 2002. So
That's a lot of accolades there.
Yeah. I mean,
so we are very privileged right now to be able to hear the words coming from this human right next to me. So
yeah.
Thank you for joining our podcast. I feel really happy to have you, and you're an interesting character in my life. That's for sure.
I think you are all the more interesting.
So, where do we start? I mean, that's kind of where I always like to go, is the beginning. So, when and where were you when Korean natural farming came into your life?
I was just finishing my military service. Like, it's mandatory in Korea. So that was 2002. And that's when I read Master Joe's book that was first published in 95. So I read it, and then I felt like this knowledge has some potential answers to a lot of the problems that we are facing. So I didn't perceive it as just a farming technology. I saw like this can be used to heal the environment and heal the people's health.
Right.
And help the poor. So that's why I went and met him, and then attended his seminars, and then started working for him. Like he was doing starting a lot of international activities. So he asked for a lot of help in English. So I helped him out, and then later he suggested that I work with him.
Right.
So then I just joined his organization and worked a few years together. So that's how I first also translated his book at that time.
Which is really key and crucial and important in my opinion. It's probably the way that I was able to get to Korean natural farming. I mean, I got to it through David, really, but it's because of the translation and the sharing of the knowledge that I was able to hear about it. David was able to hear about it, and now we're trying to share the knowledge as well. So when you heard about it, when you found out about Korean natural farming, it affected you. It touched you. It inspired you. I would consider you sort of a humanitarian. You know, somebody that wants to help the earth, help the people in the earth, and the animals as well. Is that? Yeah. So you, above all technology, when you were introduced to Korean natural farming, would you say that this impacted you the most?
Korean natural farming is it's not just the technology. What impacted me most would be the spirit of Korean natural farming. And that's, when we say spirit, it's not even limited to Korean natural farming, because there are other great-minded people, great-minded organizations that promote such spirit.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to get in touch with. I don't want to just limit myself to, Korean natural farming or its technology or knowledge. There's a particular spirit in it which symbolizes what I really want to pursue. And that spirit is what I continue to pursue with some of my friends to establish our society.
Yeah.
And make it really clear what we are doing.
Yes.
So that's it's like I always say the three missions of our society. That's heal the soil.
Heal the soil.
The environment, not just soil, water, air, the environment. And then we heal the people, because people are very sick. And it's the fact that people are sick is a reflection of the earth is being sick.
Exactly.
So we heal the people, and then we help the poor. Like this, I want this farming knowledge not just to be, used for generating more profit. It's okay to generate more profit for some organic growers, but this can also be used as a tool for the poor people to improve their own living.
Well, let me just say that I just use these terms loosely to cut through all the stuff, but I say the matrix, and I refer to the matrix as a world where it's not very natural. And so when I say that, that's where I'm going with this. Yesterday we went to watch the football game at a place that I wouldn't normally hang out, but we're here in Pune. We're sort of limited. If you want to be involved in the matrix, you have to dive into it. So I was there and I observed very sick human beings. And it is, my kulyana to help the earth, help the bees, help the people, just as yours. And I could observe with my eyes, because I studied genetics for a really long time, diabetes affecting people in a really harsh way. You could look down at their feet and their ankles and the bottoms of their legs, and they're very swollen. And I don't even think that they're aware of what's happening. The circulation is really, really lacking. And they get super swollen. The color of the skin completely changes, turns purple. And then also another big thing that we're experiencing is sort of like a chicken pox of a more adult life, which is, for some reason my brain's farting. What's that called? Shingles. And these are two things that we can actually, without any doctor's visits, we can really help with diet and these fermentations that Korean natural farming offer. So I don't just go to watch a football game. I can't. I'm constantly on alert of what I can do to contribute to society, and that's what I see in you.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you know what's common between health and death?
What's common between health and
death?
death? I don't know. Tell us.
There's no money. if people are healthy, there's no money. If people die, there's no money. So you put them in a perpetual state of not sick enough to die, but not healthy enough to not go to the doctors. And then the whole system gets running. So that's health and death. That's something that you want to avoid.
Yeah.
And you talk about like the very ill person that you saw, and then
Oh, it was many. I'd
Yeah.
say half of the environment that we were in yesterday.
so if you bring that kind of issue and then think about how you can heal those kind of people, the mainstream approach would be go to the doctor, be treated, medicines, pills and stuff like that. But if the person doesn't change the food that he or she eats,
Right.
and then the water that he or she drinks, the air and the environment and all the chemicals that enter the body, all those things are linked. So that person's health is a reflection of the earth's health.
That's right.
And as long as we are continue to contaminate and destroy the earth, exactly same is happening to our humanity.
So
And
this
actually
is
there's another aspect of it, which is our inner self.
Yeah.
Not only our body. Not only our body is being destroyed and contaminated, our soul and our mentality is being really
Yes.
degraded.
And there's a story that I like to tell. In a previous podcast, it kind of blew up after I told this story. But I like to tell stories so that we can break it down into layman terms so that everyone can understand and get it. And then maybe even if I can inspire one person to grow and change, then I know my job is done. So the way that I equate this, a bee to the hive is a cell to the body, is a body to the earth. And if you watched the previous podcast with Nature Blight, you'll know exactly what I'm referring to, but I'll tell it real quickly. So when you get sick, what happens? Your body temperature rises, right? You get a fever, you get a temperature, and it activates all the white blood cells, all the brand new blood cells that are geared to heal you. And they send it to all over your body to do its work. And if you're the earth, then what are you? So to the earth, I am just a cell to this big body. Like the bees, the keywords are cells, cells energy. And one bee does not make the hive, and the queen itself doesn't make the hive, because what's the queen without the bee, right? What's the brain without this body, right? So what happens right now, we're having global warming. It's mimicking what goes on with our body when it's sick. Global warming activates us. We are the white blood cells. You, my friend, are activated to heal the earth. And just like the cells in your body are activated when you get sick. So we don't have to get stuck on the story that something is collapsing or failing. What we need to do is address our diets and address the three things that you discussed, that you just talked about earlier. So let's get into that. How?
Heal the earth.
Yeah.
Heal the
People,
people,
help the poor.
and help the poor.
Right. So what is it that you're doing now? David informed me that well, you tell us what you got going on.
I've together with some of my friends, they are super interesting people.
Mhm.
Some are Buddhist nuns. Some have been working in the government. Some have been doing like charity works, and some of them is just a child there, not even adult right now.
Mhm.
And we got these people together. They've been just like a private group helping the elders or the poor people since the 80s. That's kind of the core group that I joined, and then established it into a legal entity. So right now I'm promoting Sarm natural farming.
Mhm.
Sarm, as David mentioned, means life, and this Sarm natural farming is one of the activities of the Sarm society that I belong to. So my goal is to really develop and promote Sarm natural farming. And one of the very important thing that I want to mention is that Sarm natural farming is not a set of knowledge. It's not a set of technology.
Okay.
It is a purely a spirit and a movement. So any knowledge or any technology that can contribute to healing the soil, healing the people, helping the poor, they are welcome to be called Sarm Natural Farming. So, and I have 5 other conditions that need to be sufficed to be called like Sarm Natural Farming. It's like high productivity, high yield, and then it's gotta be organic, sustainable, no chemicals, not contaminating. Then it's gotta be very, very low cost so that it's affordable for the people.
Right.
Number 5 is that the knowledge has to belong to the people.
Oh.
Yeah. So the farmer, he or herself has to know how to make the inputs, how to do the farming, so that they no longer have to rely on the market-bought products.
Whoa.
So the way that I want to break this down for the people is we have a commercial demand for everything in agriculture, okay? There's a bazillion people out there, and we get to feed them all, okay? And agriculture, in my perception, has gone the way of chemical application. So that is not. I'm a farmer because I want to feed and nourish the people. I want to serve the people a healthy thing. I want to help nourish and grow the people. That's why I'm involved with farming. I perceive that some agriculture is not about that. I perceive that it's about making money. And in that place, there's chemical application. So Korean natural farming, to me, is a way we can meet the demands of commercial agriculture without the chemical application. So
while finding a balance between having the knowledge belong to the people or whatever service you're providing, and not having it be like an entity that's like closed doors and you can't access that information.
So how do we do that, David? What's your opinion?
I don't know. I'm just going over things like hearing what Ray's talking about, and then like recently I've just been offering the service of bioremediation through the Korean natural farming technologies and stuff, and I've been thinking about whose place I've been spraying. In the majority of the people that I'm spraying their solutions that they made, and yeah, the majority of their inputs they've made them themselves. So it's like it's keeping that quality of not just meeting the demand to go remediate an area, but like someone that has the ability to make the things themselves, but they might not have the time or the flexibility or the tools
or the equipment
the equipment to apply them at an easeful and efficient way. So it's like I don't know. I think that's important.
It is very important.
When you talk about like how we can feed the people using alternative method, I call it KNF. I don't necessarily call it Korean natural farming now, but
Okay.
anyway, if we use the KNF and then feed the people, I think it's possible because it's highly productive and it is very positive influence to the environment. But the thing is, knowledge is power,
Yes.
and knowledge is always taken away from the people.
Why is that?
Because, okay, I have to add one more: health, death, and knowledge. There's no money.
Yeah. So with power,
But
do we tend to get diluted with money?
But if it's taken away, that means we gave it away.
It means we gave it away. Yes, because nobody can take anything from me. I have to give it up, right? But that's what we're doing right now. We're coming together, standing as one in our power, and saying you can't take shit away from me. I'm a KNF. I'm a KNF farmer, and this is my knowledge, and I want to share it with the world. This is our knowledge, and it seems as though we've gotten a little separated from growing our food, right? And that's what I'm trying to tell people is you don't necessarily have to grow all your own food, but grow something. Get your feet in some kind of soil, okay? Get a solution made. This is how you can do this. You can make a fermentation and drink it yourself and feed it to your house plants. KNF goes much deeper than you actually having to be a big time farmer. If you work with bees, it appears as though bees are sick. But the bees that David and I work with, they're not. They're doing amazing things.
Yeah, they're teaching us new stuff every day. Like, so after you make a fermented plant juice, you can turn it into a vinegar. You have the leftover plant material. Well, we've been feeding the bees the fermented plant juices and makeshift bags with little holes in them, and we put them in the hives, and in 3 to 4 days they eat the whole bag, and they're using a lot of it for probably feed within the bees. They're turning a little bit of it into honey. Maybe they're using some of it for royal jelly or whatever. But they really like that fermentation. They drink it up. They love it, especially when it's raining and it's in the winter months in Hawaii, and it's there's not as much pollen or abundance everywhere. So one time I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna make this one into a vinegar. So we dumped it back there on the bananas and just spread it underneath. And a few days later, for about a week straight, every morning we would see the bees in search of it. Oh, yeah. So they found the ferment, they got a taste for it, and they enjoyed it, and then they sought it out in nature.
They sought it out in nature, but keep going with this.
And all the bees that now have a taste of this are now cruising around, just like if you just tried an amazing fermented plant juice and you had some, you might share it with a friend.
Share the knowledge.
So the bees are doing the same thing. Well, they'll eat it, they'll save some of it in their gut, and then they'll regurgitate it and purify it for another bee down the road and say, hey, have you found this? Have you tried this? And they're going to be like, no. And then the bee tries it, and then they're like, oh my God. So all the bees are becoming aware. So then either subconsciously, those persons' beehives, whoever they are, those bees are now tuning into this natural farming,
and they're seeking it.
They're seeking the mycelium, and that's over there. There's just a regular pile of mulch, and then we've been inoculating it with liquid IMOs, and then the next morning, even right now, there's mushrooms coming out of it. When we dig down in the mulch, if we're pitchforking it up to apply it somewhere, there will be bees in there. The bees are going into these piles, seeking the mycelium for this purified water.
Well, not only that, but let's remind everybody what's in your hair, what are mushrooms made of, and what is the bee skeletal system made of? Chitin. It's a key, crucial ingredient in your success. Mushrooms are an important part of your diet.
So I kind of want to. This is a little bit off topic, but kind of on topic though. If we can talk a little bit. So you're familiar with the BMW system, right? That's bacterial mineral water. It's in the Jadam book. It's in Master Cho's book too. And for those that have been studying natural farming, maybe specifically from Master Cho, he has these mineral waters, right? These different mineral waters, A through E, with the rooting power mineral too. And there's some way that he's able to transform the rock into water through an alchemical process. Okay. Anyway, whenever we've asked him, he just says, Moses hitting the rock twice. That's Numbers chapter 20, verse 11. Moses hits the staff twice with the rock turns into water. It feeds the livestock. It feeds the villages. It feeds the rivers. It feeds everything, right? So yesterday, Shane and I went out to, a great learning experience, always a learning experience, collecting microbes. And we had a box out in Kalapana, and we found, there's an illustration, but I'll show Ray just to demonstrate it. We found this cave, okay?
And you could go to my page and watch the video.
So in this cave, you go through this little hole, and you're in the middle of a lava field. There's a forest, okay? In the forest, there's this little cave. You make your way through it, and you go all the way, and it goes out into the ocean. And underneath the cave, there's constantly just water dripping. Drip, 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 drip. And the waves are crashing up on the rocks. The water's not that high. It's not the scale. But the water's constantly going through, and it's in a place that's relatively kind of dry. So I don't know. It just came through that, maybe Moses hitting the rock is this is nature's system of turning this moisture that's going through the rocks, that's becoming structures, ionized water, and the water that comes out is now mineralized. It is all the minerals of the lava rock. Yeah. And I don't know, for those people that want to.
Yeah, and once this video is done, or whenever you feel like it, if you go on my page, you'll see the ending of our hike, of our journey, where we're crawling through this cave, and we get to the ocean. It is just, it's amazing. Complete and total darkness.
So I didn't, just from your expertise with like the mineral water system, I didn't know if that makes any sense or like, because this is an observation of nature doing it naturally, and
Yeah, I think in the nature there are the powers at work. We have the rock, the sun, the wind, the water, of course. And then actually, I would say like those kind of observation is very like insightful. And when we try to, all we are doing is trying to copy what's going on.
no, I know that's
So-
it's just like how
so like
can you
whatever
mimic nature?
mineral A or whatever, yeah, it would be something from the process of nature,
Mhm.
and that is something that we want to emulate. So I think your observation is very good. Like the water trickling through the minerals and containing the minerals.
You can actually see the roots of the trees
Going-
in the cave.
Going straight through the rock.
Straight through the rock, absorbing the moisture from there, the mineral rich moisture. How else could those trees grow? And where did the soil come from? You know, it's like they're making magic happen. The microbes are making the magic happen, and that can happen for you. Your gut is super intelligent. That's why they call it the gut instinct. It's one of your brain systems. So when you drink the fermentation, when you take part in Korean natural farming or KNF or whatever you want to call it, you're increasing your ability to retain knowledge.
But it needs to be applied. Isn't like, it's like knowledge is applied wisdom.
Yes. Upgrading your DNA and upgrading your reflections.
Okay. I kind of just want to keep diving deeper into the.
Yeah, I know. We also got to talk about this
Yeah,
book
let's
here.
talk
We
about-
got to get back on you.
Yeah,
I mean.
let's talk about the book.
So tell us about this book. It's called A Monk's Reply to Everyday Problems. And
Translated by the one, the only Ray Yoon.
Yeah, this is a venerable Bum Yoon. He's a Korean monk, very well respected. I really love him. He's like a guru of the young generation right now. Not just young generation, the public. Because he goes around talking to the public, and then people just ask everyday questions, everything from financial to family to spiritual, anything. They just ask anything, and he would just. It's like a very comfortable talking. So his answers are always very, very easy, casual, and simple. But I've studied Buddhism very little bit, and with my understanding, when I read it, it all comes from the Buddhist wisdom. He's speaking so easily, but they're all coming from the Buddhist wisdom. So I was really surprised when I first saw the book, and then I was fortunate enough to be connected with their organization. So I've been doing some volunteer works for them, and then they suggested, why don't you translate this book into English? I thought, yeah, this is a meaningful work to do. So that's how this book came to be. Like it's a selection of 50 Dharma talks.
50 Dharma
Where
talks.
can people find it?
Right now, it's only available in Korea.
But if I
In
search
the
for it
future,
online, could I get a hold of
Amazon,
it?
maybe?
You can buy it, but you'll have to purchase it from a Korean website, reading the Koreans,
Well,
So they are still working on getting this into the English-speaking countries. 'Cause,
okay.
they are in the process of doing it. So when they do it, I will let you know.
So getting back to KNF a little bit. So that's kind of where this all
Okay,
began.
okay.
Is you started
Talking
go
about
ahead.
the younger generation.
Yes.
Okay, and I had the privilege of going to see Master Cho this past week, and he talked about some of the key emphasis points were about politics and the younger generation. He said that there needs to be more natural farmers becoming politicians, like building these perceived bridges, and merging worlds, so to speak. But he also talked about younger generations and how, like, where today do you just cruise through America and find a farm village with children, with tons of children? And it's just not a common thing. And I'd say in Pune we're more lucky because there's a lot of tribe-like communities and there's lots of keikis. And even here where we live at the Hive, there's 2 young children running around, which is like, you know, they get to grow up and see the land being transformed and know that that's always a possibility.
Yeah,
and that's
it's part of their life.
It's part of this reality. And yeah, just the people who were there, you know, there wasn't any kids there. Like there was one
2 or 3
infant baby, and then there were like 3 or 4 people under the age of 40.
Right.
And and you talk about the spirit, and that really is what hit me. Is it's like it's all about the spirit. And when I was there, like I perceived that maybe it wasn't in the spirit, but maybe that's me not being in the spirit and being able to like hold space for both of these worlds. But I don't know, that's just what I perceive. So.
Well, I mean, getting back to the kids too, like that's super important for me. When we were at our friend Alohi's farm, what was her son doing? He was out there playing.
Yeah, in the mulch.
In the mulch, jumping off the mulch. Do you understand what's happening to his body? Being involved, that connected with the soil. First off, he's in nature. The potential for his health is unlimited when you're in nature. But he's actually working with the microbes. The microbes will heal you. And they're applying the fermentations. Not only that, but the message that you talked about, the bees sharing with each other, because they regurgitate the food that they eat and share it with other bees. Just like we're sharing the knowledge with you, bees share the knowledge with each other. So the bees that we work with here are influencing all the bees in the area. We went way 3-4 miles down the road, okay? No, more. 5 miles down the road. And what did we see? The bees were doing the same thing that they're doing here, there. But now I haven't seen it anywhere else. And trust me, I'm always looking. So the message is moving. It's spreading. And what I would like people to see is the reflection in the bee. That's why we call this bee programming. Is I see the reflection in the bee, the story. I see the healing happening. I see the knowledge being shared. And gut health is super important in the bee.
But then, yeah, I guess you see the thing being shared. But how does this information get brought to someone in a way where, you know, they can easily understand it, but then they also don't have to worry about, like, you know, paying for it? Because, like, realistically, the ticket costs $225.
Let's talk to Ray about this.
For an introductory seminar. One day with Master Cho, one day with Young Sang Cho. And to be honest, that when Young San Cho was speaking in English for the first time, it was really hard for me to comprehend what he was saying. And you know, that for someone that's been exposed to his work before,
He
like,
spoke English?
Yeah, he spoke English and read off an iPhone, his whole presentation, and it's just like that. I feel like that ticket cost is a barrier to entry. And then
it is for me.
It's a barrier to entry for a lot of people. And then, so how does this get shared and worked on and innovated in a way where in a world where there's still people trying to, like, create perceived barriers to entry?
I think, like, the problem of money is always very tricky, because money is neither good or bad. You just make use of it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you charge too much and you become greedy, and then you just want to take the money, use some other person's popularity or reputation to benefit yourself,
Ooh.
and then that is a barrier. High costs can be a barrier, but it's still, if you have it too low, then you don't have the funding to operate yourself.
Right.
So you just need the right balance, and I think there's no really clear number or answer to that. You just need to be honest and pure to your heart. So I think that's a standard criteria for the money part. And the second part is, what I really want to encourage is not like the leaders of natural farming going everywhere to teach all the time. They teach once, and then they have the people who learned will need to teach next time. So we just train the trainers, and they train the trainers, and then it will go into an exponential growth.
Yes.
So like a Drake or I or some of the people really want to go and spread the teachings, but we have only so limited physical, availability. So I really, when I went to the Philippines, I've been there giving 14 workshops now. Every time I go there, I encourage them to form their own group. They will just form it voluntarily most of the time.
Right.
And then they share the information, they share the experience, and they ask each other, answer each other, and then you start to see this thing growing. They will grow by themselves, and that is a very healthy, resilient growth. Instead of just relying on the teacher or the charisma or like worshiping that one doctrine, that is not very healthy.
No. And David and I have come together to help spread the knowledge as well. And I'm kind of attached to this idea. I have a whole plan formulated around doing a direct study mimicking a commercial apiary, a commercial bee operation, and applying the Korean natural farming methods and showing.
It's happening, okay?
It is.
It's happening, and it also involves 2 cows, okay? We're just putting that out there. It involves 2 cows. But basically, we're gonna purchase 40 to 100 hives.
But we need the finances.
Okay.
And how do we get that?
We're gonna purchase 40 to 100 commercial beehives, all right, that have been raised with chemicals that have been artificially inseminated, which means the genetics are bottlenecked, they're controlled, the queen has been limited, and we're gonna bring them to a place that has never been treated with it, like really with KNF or any type of natural farming. And we're going to document and record how to integrate holistic beekeeping, bee guardianship practices, ancient practices, shamanic practices of beekeeping, where you don't use chemicals, you don't use pesticides, you let the queens mate naturally. We give them structured ionized water, and we feed them the natural farming solutions. And then in the surrounding areas around the bees, we remediate the soil, bring the microbes back, add the mycelium, and invigorate the land simultaneously. So we're bioremediating, we're measuring the statistics, the quality of honey, the production, the genetic diversity. We're cleaning the water table that is coming from above, that's going below. And
it's better than sustainable. It's remediation.
We're growing crops specifically for the bees, but also medicinal crops such as like turmeric or canaf, cannabis hibiscus, which is the seeds can be turned into a biodiesel, the stalk can be turned into an ethanol, the stalk can be woven into a robe, a textile, a fiber, a paper. You can reinforce concrete with them, so any kind of like dome, aircrete, hempcrete can be made with canaf. So all that land is going towards the bees and something more sustainable in the future, and that's what we're trying to do here. And
we need to raise about $80,000 in order to do this, and that's where I'm like, okay, how can we do that? So without being too greedy, because I perceive the need for money to do this, right? And I've asked for donations. I have a 501c3 nonprofit. It's official. We can get the donations really easily, and I could give you a receipt for your taxes if you're playing in the tax world. And so then we have Tim Leadham, best-selling author, that comes into our reality, and he says he can help us write a book. And that is one way I feel like we can generate income. But here we are. I don't want to tell a story of us struggling to make ends meet.
Well, we're making it happen right now. Like, regardless of like those 40 to 60 hives, there's still 20 plus hives here.
There's 13 right now.
13 here. There's how many hives all over?
All over. We're doing
there's
it.
Hives all over that are being caretaken, and there's wild beehive removal, so the genetics are constantly getting bigger and more diversity. And we're starting off here. I mean, we're starting by feeding our community, our tribe, but we're remediating the soil, and we're experiencing tremendous results.
Huge results.
Like I don't know, 4 months ago, none of this stuff back here was here. There was nothing back there. There was nothing growing. It was grass or whatever. And now there's medicinal herbs. There's pollinators. There's food. There's there's enough food in there for us as a community to eat one meal a day if we wanted to from the land and sustain that. And the goal is it to be 3 more.
Probably have to talk louder because of the mower.
Yeah, but that's what we're doing, and that's our mission, and that's the thing is it's like I regardless of the separation between the politics of natural farming and who owns the knowledge, whose knowledge is it, and where does it come from, and whose teachings are being propagated in what ways, and who's spreading them, and why are they doing it, and what are their intentions, it goes back to the spirit. And the spirit is to heal the bees, heal the planet, heal the soil, heal the world, heal the people, and share this information with everyone, because like it's made my life more enjoyable, so like maybe it can make someone else's more enjoyable too.
What kind of suggestions do you have?
I think the book is a very good idea.
Yeah.
Who can generate profit and spread the knowledge at the same time.
Okay.
So book would be a good option, and I don't know, maybe you can start smaller and build up some success stories which can convince more people.
We have that.
Yeah.
We have a living, breathing situation here happening where the example is real, So yeah, it's been a total of a 6-year journey, but the last 3 years have been really impactful. And
Right,
especially since Korean natural farming came into my life. It's almost where we're at a point where it's hard to decipher where things begin and they end. Korean natural KNF is just like, it's constantly blowing my mind. The things that I'm witnessing, the bees transform, the land transform, the human transform. I really want everybody to have this knowledge.
And I guess not being attached to like how it's innovated and not taking it personal, because like I'll make it public right here on January 22nd. It's the La'au days. La'au is like, there's many translations, but medicinal men and women gathering herbs in Hawaiian culture, preparing the medicine and administering during that moon phase. And the one medicine recipe in KNF is the Oichen, or Oriental Herbal Nutrient. It has 6 herbs, right? Gonna experiment with a 7th herb, which is ayahuasca. So gonna ferment and then tincture ayahuasca, and then either apply it separately or blend it within. But it's like that's not a teaching from Master Joe, but
Apply to the plants.
Yeah, plants.
I think like experimenting with different local material is a very good idea. Experimenting, yeah.
Experimenting. Okay,
Yeah.
and then sharing. I guess sharing the results.
Yeah. You have the results and then you share it.
But why do I perceive like there's some people that I like that there's a dissonance between sharing happening on the island, or like how some people are sharing versus how other people are sharing in terms of the KNF knowledge.
Don't be. I mean, if you're stuck to the name,
Yeah.
Korean natural farming, and who owns the knowledge,
Yeah.
then you will forever be under the shadow of are you following the authentic teaching or not.
Yeah.
I mean, that has a certain significance. You need to follow the right teaching. That is good. I'm not objecting about that. But what I have chosen is just to disregard the name, build a new name, and then build a new movement. Like as I said, this is not so much about the knowledge itself, but the spirit and the movement. So if the certain aspects of the Korean natural farming is good for our mission, then we adopt it, instead of going through all the hassle of did you degrade the original teachings or whatever, or you should not be sharing this or that. To be honest, the people who follow the original name are the ones who more degrade the original teachings, rather than the ones who are very careful about trying to preserve the integrity. So I would suggest just be more open, be free, be on your own, but still respect the old teachings, but don't be bound by it. And then you can respect them, but you don't need to worship them. That's the
Don't give them too much credit.
I mean, you give credit to where it belongs. That's
Right.
it. That's it. No more.
No more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So respect over worship.
What I perceive is if you give too much credit outside of yourself, then the opposite is there's a potential for the opposite. So if you put too much credit or too much harshness, judgment outside yourself, either way, whether it's good or bad, then the lesson has to come back to you. You're going to see the potential for positive and or negative. So when we give ourselves the credit, but not in a narcissistic kind of way, just like a very humble, like look, I'm confident that I'm gaining the knowledge, and I honor it, I cherish it, and I want to share it. I want to respect where it came from, and do my part, and focus more on that. And that's one of the things I notice in you, without giving you too much credit.
I mean, like, I come from Korea, and we have a very, very big culture of fermentation.
Mm-hmm.
It's full of fermentation. Like, I've eaten and I've made all these fermented food myself in the Korean methods.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a very big potential of that being applied into agriculture.
Yeah.
And the Korean natural farming, as it is taught, a lot of it comes from those kind of knowledge. So, giving credit is very, if I want to give credit, I also have to give credit to the nameless ancestors who've been making kimchi for thousands of years.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's how you have to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this credit matter, food we have to set up as the authority, and this kind of thing it could be important, but don't be too bound by it, to be too restricted. Don't let it restrict you.
Right.
You respect, but you don't get restricted, and you do your experiments, do your studies, try the improvements. I'm not saying just bring it and distort it. You respect the original, but you still be a free person to do your own research. That's where things start growing. And even the sugar aspect of KNF is sugar. We didn't have any sugar in Korea in the 19th century. It's a new product from the West. So a lot of the fermentation, those parts came from the tradition, but there was certainly a new introduction of a new material called sugar. So all these things are still, I'd like to see knowledge as a continuously evolving entity instead of fixed set of knowledge.
Right.
That's why when we promote the Sarm natural farming, I say it's not a set of knowledge, it's a spirit, it's a movement, and we are ready to embrace any knowledge, whether it's fixed or still evolving.
Yeah, it's growth. It's constant
Growth,
growth.
yeah, it's all about growth.
Yeah, you plant the seed, nourish it, and watch it grow, and then everybody can eat from that plant, and yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I'm focused on getting this knowledge, getting this information out there. So yeah, I'm really happy that I could share Ray Yoon with everyone out there. So if you would, right now, where are we at?
Where are we at?
Yeah, where are we at with KNF? With what is your projection out into the future?
This year is after the lunar year, this will be the year of the golden boar. I think this year will be a year of a blade of grass raising its head above the soil. So there has been a lot of hardships and difficulties.
Yes.
I see them as the laying down of the organic matter and the decomposition process.
Oh.
And then there will be a new birth of life among the chaos. So this year, I think it will be, and it has to be, a year where the new growth is going to begin. So I don't want to get into details, but there has been a lot of negative forces at work, and I don't even want to mention them. But what I want to really make clear is that all the all the hardships and challenges only make you stronger.
That's right.
So now we have a very good team. Like you guys are also the team. Like I'm working with Greg Weiner, and I have my friends in the Philippines. I have friends all over, like who have really gathered because of that negativity. They've seen the negativity and they came together because
Yes.
they wanted to pursue something worthwhile, not something corrupt. So it's a very good thing that kind of bond has emerged out of that situation. That's why I say this year will be the year of growth. We have let out the sprout, and this is gonna grow. We're gonna put in our passion and energy, and good friends like this will come together and join forces. And this is gonna. I mean, this is something that I wanna devote my life to. It's something meaningful.
Yeah. Yeah, I get a little emotional just thinking about how much passion I recognize in all the reflections standing here today. And we have people from all over here that aren't on camera right now that have really dedicated their lives to this work. And the reason why they've dedicated their life is because they care about you. And it's really humbling to feel that. All that powerful energy, that transformation energy that you speak of, Ray. The hard times, yeah, we've all had them. We've all experienced them, the hard times. And right now it does seem like there's a lot of chaos. But I also see through the illusion. I can see through the illusion really easily. And this idea of a lack mentality, that we don't have the money, that we don't have the support, it's not real. The only thing that is real is the love that we have for this, and then the action that we put with that love. Action is love, and we're doing it. So when we just trust in that, in ourselves, then I know what you're speaking of, that blade of grass that rises, is exactly what, it's the only thing that can happen.
Yes. I believe in the power of an enlightened individual.
Yeah.
It's more powerful than a group, organization, or government or company. The individual that has awakened, I think that's the strongest.
And that's why I love KNF, because I feel it is really awakening all of us. The spiritual awakening. The connection with the soil, the connection with Gaia, the connection with the water. Water is life. The birds and the bees, the trees and the seeds.
The land of milk and honey.
The land of milk and honey. So we need bees and cows.
Cows. Yeah, we're getting 2 cows. If anyone wants to lend some support.
We need a lot of support. You know what? We want a lot of support.
Yeah.
We've got everything we need, but we want a lot of support. So if you're watching out there, you want to help get this message out there, you know where to find us. Right here on the Big Island of Hawaii, bringing bee programming to you, helping share this knowledge. So Ray, I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting.
And let's mention this book one more time. This is the book that Ray translated. It's not quite available yet.
Amongst Reply to Everyday Problems.
But it will be available soon, so keep your eye peeled for it. If you speak Korean, you can find it, I'm sure. So yeah, thank you so much for all you do, man. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
And we love you, everyone. Thanks for watching. Share this a bazillion times. Oh, the dog thing. Yeah, what are we gonna say about the dog thing? Tim, you want us to talk about the dog thing?
We are developed. This is kind of a lifelong mission, which is coming to fruition through some of the things that we've seen in the last couple of weeks. Shane's dog got loose over the holiday, and we went to the Humane Society. And there were probably 100 dogs there, and they have a kill. After 7 or 8 days, these dogs are put down. And I've seen this across the mainland. So what we've developed is a dog food with the help of David, with his additives, that has no wheat. It's a top dog food. And through my friend, we have tremendous margins in this. If you go and buy dog food, you're going to spend maybe $30. It only costs $3 or $4 for that dog food company to produce this. So what we're doing, we're dedicating the profits that we're making to give to people if they go out and buy 2 bags, okay, we will give them a free certificate basically around the United States through the Humane Society or Petco, and so they can get their dog neutered. The biggest problem that dogs have is overpopulation, period. There are too many dogs. So what we're trying to do in the future is cut down the population. So we're doing our part. We hope everyone does their part. It's not a large investment, and we're going to save future dog lives by not having so many dogs.
Well, thank you for
That's
doing
what
your
we're doing.
part, Tim. I really appreciate all your help. We're working on so many different things, helping our community. So yeah, we're raising awareness not only in farming but in so many different
I think
aspects.
what the ladies want to know is Ray single?
Oh, Ray, we didn't even talk about that. Are you available? Because I'm telling you what, I've heard some rumor. You know, that you're the most interesting man of Korea.
Can I give you my email address over here?
I think that answers the question. Mr. Yoon is available for all you available ladies out there. And on that note, we'll go ahead and sign off. We love you very much. Thanks for tuning in to Be Programming. Aloha.
Thank you.